Good evening, everybody. It is January 2015 already. Happy New Year. It's Miss M. I've missed you. Where have you guys been? Well, we've actually been hiding out. Work, pesky work, and other responsibilities have taken us away from the weekly broadcast. But guess what? I am back with my girl, Erica, and we are here tonight to do a little bit of recap from the last weeks of the NFL's regular season, talk about the Super Bowl. So everybody say hello to Erica. Hi, Erica. How are you?
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. I'm so excited. I missed it.
Yes, it was way too long, and there was not enough football conversation in my life. There was more work stuff than I cared to have to, well, I mean, it keeps a roof over my head and food on my table, so I am glad for that, but it cuts into my football. It cuts into my enjoyment of football. So let's dive right in. The first thing I have to say is, oh my God, Vince Wilfork, regular day at the office, win the AFC Championship, and then on his way home, save people from overturned cars.
Yeah.
I mean, he's part football player. He's part Superman. Who knew? Go ahead on, Vince. That's my dad. By the way, Erica, that's my dad's very favorite Patriot of all.
That's awesome. Yeah, and how Belichick was like, that's just the kind of guy he is, like nobody was surprised. They all kind of were like, yeah, it happened. Like, totally not surprised. I was like, wow, So, yeah, it was pretty funny.
And who would have ever thought, and I guess, and if you think about it, he's probably the only one who was around who had the strength to pull that woman out of her overturned car. But see what happens when you drink and drive, y'all? I don't know. Was she drunk? She was either drinking or she was charged with driving under the influence.
Oh my gosh, lady.
Yeah, driving while impaired or something. I don't know what they call it up in Massachusetts, but yeah. So thank God Vince Wilfork came along to save her. And speaking of,
too many beers.
Too many beers. Oh my God. What a piss out. She was drunk. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about that was sort of toward the end of the season was, my heart is broken for Peyton Manning. I love Peyton. Don't get me wrong. I know that a lot of folks feel like, you're either solidly in Camp Brady or solidly in Camp Manning, which, if I had to pick, I would say I probably followed Peyton longer than I followed Tom Brady, but they're both the quarterbacks of their time. So I'm really sad for Peyton and how his season ended, and I'm selfish. I want him to keep coming back until until he can't walk anymore. I want him to keep coming back. So what do you think? You think he's going to call it a game, or do you think he's going to come back?
I think that if his physical clears him, he has to have a physical after every season because of his neck fusion. So I think if his physical clears him, I think he'd like to come back. But I think really the elephant in the room there is, does Gary Kubiak want to start his tenure as the Denver Broncos coach with Osweiler, somebody he can mold and somebody that he can have fresh? Or does he want Peyton Manning, And I think that's kind of what you got to look at. But I think Elway loves Peyton. I think that he likes where he's taken the franchise, and he Elway did a lot to get Peyton there, and he gave up a lot. He pursued him aggressively, paid him decent money. So my gut tells me that Peyton will come back. I think that at least another season, Manning will come back. I don't know. I think the competitor in him can't let it go like that. I wouldn't. I'd be like, losing that game in the playoffs, that would be way too rough. And also losing to the guy that they compare you to, your younger self, the guy that took over your former team. I think that Peyton will try to come back. I think Kubiak will be, as old as Peyton is, Kubiak will be stupid to turn Peyton away. I really think that. I think that you still have a dynamic leader. You still have a phenomenal quarterback at your disposal, So.
Right. And I would agree with that. And I would say that if for nothing else, Osweiler could really learn a lot more from Peyton in another season, number one. Number two, if you think about it, who better to make Kubiak look good? Because let's face it, he wasn't a barn burner in his last head coaching position. So who better to make him look good in his tenure as the Broncos coach than Peyton Manning? But
Yeah.
I think more than Kubiak and more than Peyton, I tell you who's on the hot seat. Elway is on the hot seat because he put together this team that has gotten this close now, time after time, and they have to do something major next season, or I would imagine that, Elway is going to be politely told that, look, if you can't get it together, we're going to need to find somebody who can get it together.
Yeah.
And the exact same way that I think actually looking at the hiring of Scott McCloughan in Washington, I think that Bruce Allen made this huge deal about last year when he was firing Shanny about, well, I'm taking over player personnel. It'll be me. I'm accountable. I'm responsible. And then he wasn't around the whole year when things were going to hell in a handbasket. And then he had this weird, vague press conference toward the end of the season, and where everybody was kind of like, what the hell is he talking about? And I would imagine that, Dan probably promised, actually, this is a quote directly from Chad. Dan probably said, hey, Scott, you want me to fire Bruce Allen? I'll fire Bruce Allen. Tell me what you want. Just come here to Washington. And I don't think that we made a bad move in hiring him. I think that we're starting to surround ourselves with some very interesting people. Today's development was that Harry Fuel is now our D-backs coach. I'm really pissed off with you, though, Dan, that you let Raheem go. But because he has a good opportunity in Atlanta, I won't be mad at Raheem for leaving, but I'm pissed off at you, Dan, for letting him walk out the door. My favorite coach. Good old Raheem. Love Raheem. And so, I do think that there are quite a few people who are going to be scrutinized heavily next year if their teams don't take the next step. And I think the major one in that list is going to be John Elway. Listen, the Redskins are going to stink for the next year or two until McCloughan can get everything together. But I would say that if Manning comes back, Elway is going to have to see to it that something positive happens for that team next year. So we'll see. So what are the changes that you're expecting from the Patriots? Super Bowl aside, and we'll talk about that very unfortunate incident later on, but all of the nonsense aside, what changes do you see coming up for the Patriots? Key free agents that are going to be hitting the market, coaching changes. Is there anything that you're reading about your guys that you're concerned about?
No, coaching changes, I don't expect any. Darrelle Revis only signed a one-year contract last year, so I think that they will try to sign him. Brady restructured his contract and made the 20 to 25 million that was guaranteed on the contract. He made it kind of optional, only that he only gets it in case of, in the instance of some type of injury or something like that. There was a clause with it. But being that it's not guaranteed anymore means that the Patriots don't have to hold on to that money as far as the salary cap rules. So now they can take that 20 to 25 million and use it as bonus money for Revis and also McCourty, Devin McCourty, who's amazing, and I will be so upset if he goes anywhere. And also for Devin McCourty for the re-signing. Those are the two big ones that I can think of. Chung looks like he will be, Dan Connolly, Gostkowski, the kicker, which we need to get that sewn up because you can't let Gostkowski go. Ridley and Shane Vereen, Ridley was hurt this year, but he's still a solid back, and the same with Vereen. They're reliable guys. I like them. So those are our unrestricted free agents. There's some guys that you're kind of like, Gerard Mayo, Nate Solder, Danny Amendola. I honestly think that once Danny Amendola's contract is up, I don't think we will see him back with the Patriots, mostly because he's been a bit of a disappointment. Welker left, and we were like, okay, we need something, and we signed Amendola, who I like to call Mr. Glass, because don't breathe on the guy. He will get injured. Every time Brady throws the ball to Amendola, I'm like, oh, wait, what? Oh, no, and they hit him, and I'm like, oh, no, watch out for his elbow, watch out for the knee, and watch out for the head. And so he's a very injury-prone type of guy, and I love Amendola. He's adorable, and he's good when he's good. He has his kind of inconsistent. But being as Belichick is very he's not the most fuzzy feeling kind of guy, if you guys haven't noticed. He loves his players, but he's not the type of guy that says, well, gosh, I feel a loyalty with this guy. Maybe I should resign him. Belichick's really like, hey, if you haven't performed, I'm sorry, but you're gone, And Amendola AFC Championship, the playoffs, great. I have seen production out of that guy like I haven't seen all year. But, it takes more than one game. So Amendola is really in a do-or-die situation with the Patriots. He really has to perform and show that he can, be up there. Because then, I'm sorry, but wide receivers, especially slot receivers, are a dime a dozen. You can get that. You can find them anywhere. You can go into the draft and find one, and you can get them on the cheap. So, and that was the big reason why we didn't pay Welker the amount of money he wanted, was because slot receivers are prone to injury. Their careers don't last a super long time. And it's just, there's no reason to pay that kind of money. And what did we see out of Welker in Denver? We saw concussions, we saw injury, and we saw him missing games. It just shows that Belichick made the right decision in that situation. So those are the big moves, or the things that will be coming up that the Patriots will have to make decisions.
Well, it strikes me as, what is this, the second or the third time around for Amendola in New England? I think it's the second time around for him, right?
Yes, I believe it's 2 seasons, I believe now. This is
yeah.
I believe, yeah.
I just, I was kind of surprised. I was just kind of surprised at that signing. That didn't make sense to me. But who knows how Bill Belichick's mind works? He seems to have this way of seeing inside players and knowing exactly when their expiration is. And even though, yeah, it is kind of creepy. No, it really kind of is. But sometimes, even though he knows that your expiration date is near as a player, he still thinks he can get that little something out of you, and he has people come back. And so but Amendola signing just didn't make sense to me. Now, what's interesting? You were talking about Stephen Ridley, which, by the way, okay, let's see, what is it? 9:16. Yes, it's 16 minutes into the show without having to go to the glasses. So Ridley, even though he was hurt, was 7th in the AFC in rushing. Blunt, ninth overall in the AFC. So, I mean, you know, it's not like y'all were burning the house down with the running backs, but you guys were still in the top 10.
Mhm.
So, two of them in the top 10. So I can't be mad at y'all for that. Um, yeah, and I didn't know. It just seemed to me that Ridley hit this patch where he was not himself. He just
Yeah.
it wasn't working for him. So I'm interested to see what happens with him next season. But can I just tell you, first of all, if there's somebody on the United States territory right now who does not love Rob Gronkowski, I have one question for you. How long have you been a member of Al Qaeda? Okay, if you don't love Rob Gronkowski, because quite frankly, Gronk is he's this kid is amazing. First of all, he has the outlook of a kid, and when you have that outlook where it's always, you keep it light, you keep it fresh, you keep it fun, and you keep it moving, how can you possibly do anything other than succeed? And so I say to you, Jeremy Lane, I hope Gronk snaps you in two like a twig. And since Rob isn't that good, then why, pray tell, was he ninth in touchdowns overall for the league, and why was he fourth in touchdowns in the AFC? I mean, I just think Jeremy Lane should answer that question for us.
Yeah. I know. I know.
And I
Yeah.
wish I would have been there at media day to ask him. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were about to say.
No, I mean Gronk is Gronk. I mean he's enormous. He's fun. He's great. He takes the game seriously when it's time to take the game seriously, and when it's time for fun, it's time for fun. And he doesn't blur the line. He doesn't carry it over. Josh Gordon, maybe you could learn a couple things. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, what isn't there to like about Gronk? I mean, he's just awesome. I love that guy. I just love his big, monstrous bear paws, and he just grabs the ball and he's dragging defenders and they're pulling his pants down. He don't care. Pull my pants down. I will move everybody and I will get a touchdown while doing it. I mean, it's like, what's there not to love about that, So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, the other guy who all of a sudden just out of it seems like this guy came out of nowhere. Julian Edelman. Oh
Oh,
my God. What in the where did Julian come from? He oh, wait a minute. I gotta say one more thing about Gronk. Who doesn't love a guy whose favorite pregame meal is a PB&J and a glass of chocolate milk? I
I know.
mean, who can't love a guy like that? But anyway, so Julian Edelman. So this guy is absolutely, positively amazing. I like this guy. It seems like he is becoming Mr. Reliable, the way that that perhaps Hernandez was, and even beyond the scope of Hernandez for your team. He was a really important part of your offense.
He is. I have to say, despite my love for Gronk, despite my love for Brady, Edelman is my absolute favorite. I love him. I mean, Minitron. Who doesn't love Minitron? I mean, and it's funny because people like to compare him to Welker. They're like, oh, he's very Welker-esque, if you will. He's this and that. And what's funny is I was watching an old mic'd up thing or something. There was some Patriots video. And Edelman he still does return for the Patriots, but before he was really, main slot receiver material. He used to return all the time. Welker was standing on the sideline next to Bill Belichick, and Edelman was returning, and he goes, "See that guy?" And I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something like, "Do you know who so and so is?" And Welker said, "No, who is that?" And he's like, "He was the guy that was ahead of some famous receiver." And he's like, "But nobody remembered that guy because of his backup coming up and eclipsing him." So Belichick was kind of like telling Welker, "Hey, Belichick knew the talent Edelman had." And he's like, "Hey, you better watch yourself if you don't work for it, type thing." And Welker just kind of chuckled on the sideline. And like I said, I can't remember names that they said, but it's very funny because Patriots fans, when we lost Welker, we were pretty upset. It was a sad day. But then you had Edelman, and he was there, and he filled that role. But at the same time, he's I feel like he's more than Welker ever was. I really feel like he's more than that, and he's phenomenal. And him and Brady have this great relationship, the chemistry. He is reliable, and he has been hurt more times this year. I have seen him go out and limp and come back in and blah blah blah, and he does his job. And I love that guy. He is just so good. And he signed a 6-year extension last year, and I can't tell you how happy I am that I don't have to worry about Edelman leaving for a while.
Right. Well, now, let me ask you this. Now, you said that you saw him hurt several times over the course of the season. Was the camera constantly on him, and was he constantly going, ow, ow, oh? Was that the case, or is that only with my boy Richard Sherman?
That's just a Richard Sherman thing. That's not an Edelman thing. Edelman's a grown-up. Edelman's not a media whore. So, that's what I got to say about that.
Well, and speaking of my boy, everybody wants to talk about how he's the best corner in the league. Really? Then why is he in a 19-way tie for eighth in overall in the league in interceptions? And why is he in a multi-way tie for fifth in the NFC for interceptions? He had 4 this year. Quite frankly, I just still do not see the magic of Richard Sherman, and some may say, oh, well, quarterbacks don't throw to him because he's so good. No, if you watch carefully, you'll see that the magic of Richard Sherman, why am I using shit? Next time I use air quotes, just give me the high sign and tell me to cut it out. The magic of Richard Sherman is the fact that he has mastered the art of reaching behind his opponent and holding the jersey or yanking on the jersey or positioning himself in such a way that the refs don't notice that he is interfering with his opponent. And so if Seattle fans want to start talking about rules violations and cheating, then perhaps they would like to address the fact that Richard doesn't know how to keep his hands to himself, A, and B, what about that pesky little getting caught for taking Adderall that he weaseled his way out of a couple of seasons ago? What's that all about? So if Seattle fans want to start talking about rules violations, they need to look in their own backyard, and they need to have more than a 2 or 3 year love relationship with the Seahawks to know what the background of their coach, Pete Carroll, is. So, yeah. So, you know what? People are talking about this matchup, though, Erica, as though it is, and we were talking about this before our hangout started. We were talking about how I think that Mike Wilbon nailed it. He said that this is not some undercard. This is Frazier Ali, the 2 heavyweights of the NFL, going at it for the Super Bowl trophy, and he is dead on with that. I mean, Vegas odds only favor the Patriots by a point. Or at least last I checked this afternoon, they were only favored by a point. Everyone is saying that this is going to be a really, really close game. And I'll tell you, the fact that we talked about Gronk stats. We Brady was 10th overall in the league in passing yards, fifth in the AFC. Wilson is 15th overall in the regular season, by the way, in passing yards, eighth in the NFC. Lynch was, of course, the touchdown leader in the AFC, and he was first as well overall in the league for touchdowns. He ranked third in the NFC and fourth overall in the league for rushing. Um, you have Gronk and T.Y. Hilton tied for eighth in receiving in the NFC. You have Doug Baldwin 23rd in the NFC. So you've got you've got people saying that this is going to be a blowout, and yet we saw how terrible Seattle started their game off against Green Bay, and we've seen that they didn't play well at home. They played really well on the road. Um, but they don't have any. They have very few players that are ranked in the top 10 of various categories, either in their conference or in the league overall. So, give me your take on this game. What is going to be, to you, the deciding factor in whether or not this is going to be a 28-27 game, or whether it's going to be, let's say, a 28-17 or a 24-17 game?
I think it'll be the team who can turn the ball over less. I think that will be a major factor. You know, Russell Wilson threw 4 interceptions. Maybe it was more. I mean, I think he threw 4 interceptions in the first half in the Green Bay game. And Baldwin fumbled once on a kick return or a punt return. So they had at least 5 turnovers in that game. Obviously, you turn over the ball, you give your opponent more chances to score, and chances are those particular opportunities are either in the red zone or very close to the red zone. I mean, usually when you fumble, it's a short field, you know. So ball security will be an absolute huge factor in this game, and also interceptions. You know, can Brady avoid the interception on the deep pass? You know, we saw in the game against the Colts, he threw that interception and Dequel Jackson picked it off. You know, they have to make smart decisions. The receivers have to be running their routes right on, because the Pats and Seattle both have these secondaries that are very good at jumping those routes. And so both quarterbacks need to be aware of that. They need to be very aware. And really, I think whoever can hold on to the ball the most. And the run. I mean, the run is huge. If the Patriots don't run the ball, and I've seen them make these boneheaded decisions sometimes, and it just infuriates me. If you look at how they didn't run the ball against the Ravens, Brady threw the ball at least 50 times, and look how close that game was. What did we do against the Colts? We took Blunt and we ran them right up against the middle the entire game, and we beat the Colts 45-7. That's not a coincidence. And so if the Patriots decide not to run the ball, we will lose. We will lose the game. That is bottom line. And if the Patriots defense cannot keep Russell Wilson, tucked up in that pocket and force him to throw, we will see a game that is really close. If they can't defend against Marshawn Lynch up the middle, it will be a very close, possibly they could lose the game. So those are the big factors that I have kind of thought about and mulled over it, and that's what I think needs to be watched.
Yeah, I would say that probably the one player that I would be the most alarmed about on the Seahawks team would be Marshawn Lynch. I think he is more dangerous than Russell Wilson. I think he's more dangerous than Richard Sherman. I think he's more dangerous than Cam Chancellor. I think that he's more dangerous than anybody else on that team. And I'll tell you, it was odd to me. I do have to say that, generally the relationship or the chemistry between Max Unger, their center, and Russell Wilson is really good, and it's flawless. And this year, though, they've had more than a few times where there's been a weird snap or an errant snap or something to go wrong in the snap of the ball, and it's caused issues. There were a few games that they had on here in the D.C. area, Seattle games, where I saw just the exchange between Unger and Wilson not be as smooth as it normally is, and I'm wondering what's going on there, and I'm wondering, is Unger hurt again? Is there some other problem? They need to watch out for that too, because I would definitely say that it's been one of the little things that has contributed to tripping them up. And I would have to agree. I'm trying to think of who said it today. Um, Trying to think of which Patriot said that the Seahawks are not invincible, and they are not. If
Let's say
you,
that.
yeah, okay, LeGarrette. So if you know how to approach them, if you know how to rattle Russell Wilson, you can rattle the rest of the team. I don't think that the secondary is as big and as bad as everybody thinks, because guess who they're missing now? Oh, Brandon Browner. That's going to be very interesting. So yeah, that's going to be that is something I want to see. I want to see how Browner plays against those receivers, because he knows them and he knows their habits, and he's going to know schemes and things like that. But it would be very easy for somebody with the football mind like Bill Belichick, to find that tiny flaw and exploit it over and over and over and over again, and and drive a huge wedge into the Seattle game plan. And I think that if anybody can out coach Pete Carroll, it's Bill Belichick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have one plea for Brandon Browner. Please, for the love of all that is holy, control your penalties. All right? I know you're very Seattle-like. I get it. I get that, they're the most penalized team in the NFL. At least they were last season. Control your penalties, man. We don't need PI spot fouls down on the 30, okay? So just, if you're going to do it, don't do it in front of the official. And please, just, Revis doesn't have to hold and commit PI all the time to do his job, so just control it, man. That's my plea. It drives me insane.
Well, and I will say that, given the whole debacle with the Dallas game in the playoffs, don't even get me started about that crap. I was about ready to put my foot through my television. That's how angry I was at the officiating, because it just seems to have gotten worse over the years. But I digress. But given the fact that there has been so much continued controversy surrounding the way that games are refereed, calls and non-calls that are, ridiculous and or missed, that are blatant. Usually when they get to the Super Bowl, the mentality is to just let the teams play. But I would say no. I would say it needs to be a pretty well-refed match, and I don't think it's going to be. I think that they're going to be just as bad as they have been over the regular season. What do you think?
Yeah, it has. The officiating just seems to get, and I think part of that you have to lay at Goodell's feet. That's a huge culprit in this situation here. I think the refs have so much to contend with, and they have just all of this crap that they have to watch out for, that they miss some things. And obviously they're human, they're not going to be perfect, and fans don't expect perfection, but we do expect some balance. You can't just call holding on one offensive line and not call it on the other. Because let's face it, there is holding. You could literally call it on every single play. But if the guy's jersey's like this, call the holding. All right, refs? It's not that hard. I get contact after 5 yards, but if they're bumping each other, you let them bump each other. But again, if the defender grabs the receiver's arm and he's like this, you call the penalty. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that I think really frustrates fans, is that it's so stinking blatant. And I get their point of views. They're down on the field. We're watching a camera that's kind of perched and whatever. But make it balanced. Make it fair. Call the obvious stuff. You can't have people, risking the safety of other people out there. You need to make sure that people are safe out there. And there you go. It's football. There's going to be contact. But, you don't want some a-hole that's using his body as a weapon and taking his helmet and trying to, jam people up underneath the chin or the throat or something, So that's, it's so frustrating, especially when some of these calls decide games, really. I mean, I get that we're like, well, if the team would have played better earlier, then that particular call wouldn't have, but we could say that all day long about the kicker and the kicker shouldn't have had to decide the game if they would have played better. But the fact remains that penalties do decide games at times.
Well, no, and there is no game that illustrates that point more than that infernal Dallas game. That decided the game. Period. End of story. Period.
Yeah.
End of story. And I, and this whole notion of, well, the people who are complaining about it don't have teams in the playoffs, so they should just shut up. No. Last I checked, we're all allowed to have an opinion, and we're all allowed to express it about, about football or any other topic that we so choose to speak about. But it's funny to me that the officiating has been allowed to get to this level. Goodell wants to chase after people and fine them $10,000 for wearing the wrong brand of headphones. He wants to fine people for wearing the wrong color cleats. He wants to fine someone for for insert ridiculous thing here. And yet, where are the repercussions? Where is the hammer coming down on the refereeing? Because I'm sorry, there are times when the referee is standing right there and he's looking right at the play, and there's a non-call. And you've got a guy with his jersey, halfway up over his head and his pads hanging out, and but there was no holding, there was no, there was nothing, no PI going on, that must have been a gust of wind that came along and almost ripped his jersey off. So I'm just wondering what the league is going to do to address that in the coming seasons, because something has got to be done. And I'll tell you what I really like, though. They were doing this for the Pro Bowl, and that was when there was a review of a call. They had those Surface tablets, and they would go over to the sideline, and they would show the coach the play on the tablet and show them the different views of the play. And I think that, this can only serve to make it a little more palatable for some coaches who will be able to see it up close and personal and say, you know what, I didn't see it from that angle, I only saw it from my angle, so you're right. that was a good call, or it was a good non-call, or are you kidding me? Look at this. You
Yeah.
know, the ball broke the plane before his knee hit the ground. Well, how can you not call this a touchdown? So, I think that it's going to be an interesting development. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them do that in the regular season. But the thing I don't like is what's up with these goalposts that are this far apart.
Yeah. I know. I saw that. It was. Are they keeping those? Is that like a thing now?
I know that they are going to did or will be getting taller, but as
Yeah.
far as the width goes, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I
Yeah.
don't
Billy
know.
Butkus better watch out because he likes to kick those things wide. So, I mean, there's some of these kickers going to be out of a job. You do that, okay? They're no Vinatieri, so I don't know.
Well, you know what? All I can say is for every ex-Redskin kicker, it's going to be a problem because because I don't know, Graham Gano, Mr. Wide Right, he was always going wide right. Yeah, that's going to be an issue for them, and so yeah, that'll be interesting to see. So if you speaking of the Pro Bowl, did you watch it?
No,
Did
not
you?
like a couple of series. I'm really disenchanted with the Pro Bowl in general. It's ridiculous that it's not the last game of the season. You have the two best teams in the league, and their players can't play. This is something that is for the fans, and how many people the fans voted in don't get a play. I mean, why even? What's the point of it? I mean, really, it's completely ridiculous that it is between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. There's no point. And I don't know. I really feel like Goodell is single-handedly ruining this league. He is pissing it all down the drain, and I can't even convey the amount of displeasure I have with that guy. I don't know. I watched a couple series, but there's no Seahawks players, there's no Patriots players. I mean, it's just ridiculous, I think. So
Well, it was my very last opportunity to see Trent Williams, and it was my very last opportunity to see Alfred Morris for the season. So, yay, Pro Bowl! Plus, to me, if it's one of the last couple of games of the season, and then I'm going to be going into football withdrawals for how many months,
yeah,
then I'm going to watch that bad boy.
yeah,
And J.J. Watt, who I personally think should be the league MVP, of course, with a pick and with several passes defensed, and Matt Stafford, 2 touchdowns. What was it, 300 yards in the limited time that he was on the field. Were the defensive and offensive MVPs respectively. I can't. Can you tell I've been working too much? So it was a decent game. It wasn't a slobber knocker. It wasn't the most exciting game I've ever seen in my entire life. But again, it was the opportunity to see some of the guys that I like and watch them. To me, it's interesting to see all of these really good players,
mhm,
the top in their positions, playing with each other on a singular team. To me, that is amazing. The only thing I don't like about it is, I don't mind it being unconferenced, but I would really like to see them rotate coaches. Can you please save me from Michael Irvin? I don't want to see Michael Irvin do this every year. Please save me. Save me from Michael Irvin.
yeah,
Okay? That would be like me having to watch, somebody taping, crazy gluing my eyes open and making me watch like an entire week's worth of Richard Sherman film, without the ability to get up or blink or to look away or avert my eyes. So, yeah, but it's fun. It it reminds me of why I love football. And so I don't know, I don't mind it. It's not, it's not, like I said, it's not a barn burner, but I still love to watch the game because I'm going to tell you what, after Sunday, I'm going to be breaking out into the cold sweats, into a panic. I'm not going to know what to do.
I know.
Without football, what are we going to do?
I don't know. I know. I'm really depressed at the thought that no more football. It's like, I'm getting rid of cable, people. I get rid of cable when football season. I only have cable from August to February. That's it. And then I get rid of it and I just do my streaming because what's the point? What's the point of TV? Everything I want to watch I can find on my computer or Netflix. That's it. So it's depressing.
Well, and I think the draft is even like way later this year. It's like I I can't. No,
I think the
no, no,
combine
no. That's
will.
4 months away. What is that? What is that?
I know. I do have to say, if J.J. Watt is not named NFL MVP, which he probably won't be, everyone's, pretty much got Aaron Rodgers sewn up, you guys can expect a giant, mega, are you kidding me, with the entire thing devoted to the fact that J.J. Watt didn't get MVP. I'm promising that right now. I mean, there will be a video with bleeps and everything because it's completely ridiculous. So
that I would pay to see. So yeah, no, I mean, and this whole argument about, well, his team didn't even make it to the playoffs. His team was horrible. That's the point. He still excelled. He still did like all these amazing things, despite the fact that his team had a crappy year.
I know.
So
Injured
why not?
quarterback, and I mean, think of how bad they would have been without him. That's really the true measure in MVP, and it's easy to do with a quarterback. It's so easy to do with a quarterback and go, oh, hey, imagine if we didn't have Aaron Rodgers and if we had Jay Cutler. Oh, imagine what would happen with our team. But
Hey, don't you pick on Cuddy now, easy.
I like to pick on Cuddy. It's so easy to do. But, it's easy to do with a quarterback or even a running back. But J.J. Watt, I mean, oh, yeah. I mean, he better get it. I'm telling you, I will firebomb the NFL offices or something.
I will shame Roger Goodell over social media if J.J. Watt is not the MVP. But I mean, listen, I don't. There are, and I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean this in the most positive way as possible. When Brady went down and he was out for an entire season,
Mm-hmm.
look at how well Belichick coached the talent that he had, and
Yeah.
look at what they were able to do. They were able to get to the Super Bowl. And so I'm not saying that Brady is less valuable or what have you, but if you take, for example, J.J. Watt off his team, if you look at the San Francisco 49ers defense this year, they were hobbled, no pun intended, by Navarro Bowman's absence this season. And then when Patrick had to go out because of his toe, that was it. That was like the dagger in the defense.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, if you look at, for example, okay, people may think that I'm crazy, but if you take Ryan Kerrigan out of the Washington Redskins defense, we wouldn't have had a defense this year. Aside from Bashad Breeland, we probably wouldn't have had, Keenan Robinson. We wouldn't have had a defense. We would have had two guys on defense that would have been decent. But, Ryan Kerrigan really anchored our defense this year. And he was our MVP, if you ask me. But, I mean, you're right. The whole reasoning behind an MVP is if you take that person and pluck them out of the equation, then what would their team do in their absence? And it is obvious to me, as well as everybody else, that J.J. Watt is an integral part of this team. And he's not just he's not just a defensive dynamo. I think we've proven that he has proven that he would be an excellent blocking tight end. I would love to see him play tight end.
I know. I know. I think if J.J. Watt wasn't on the Texans, they'd be picking first in the draft this year. I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, I think move over Buccaneers because Texans got first pick, so but
Very true, and because they didn't, uh, how 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 anybody could even think that the Texans would do well without him is beyond me. I don't know, but the guy is just listen. I love Gronk, but I mean Watt is just this guy is he's like Gronk. He never says die. He never says quit. And so I think that he is probably the best face um, for the National Football League on defense that anybody could possibly have. And I would say that Megatron is probably the best face that the league could have on offense to represent, what integrity and level of commitment to your team, to your craft, and the commitment that you have to keeping yourself in game day shape and ready to go at all times. I mean, Watt is a machine. He's anyway, I don't know. I'm right there with you. If he doesn't make MVP, I'm going to be very disappointed. But I seem to think that they're going to give it. I don't know. If they didn't give it to J.J. Watt, who would they give? I don't know. I mean, was Rodgers really that?
I didn't that good, but everyone's saying he was that good. It doesn't take much for Aaron Rodgers to do much to get accolades, though, to be honest. I mean, I don't have anything against Aaron Rodgers. I like him, and I think he's a supremely talented individual, but he's not. I mean, he does a simple act, and it's like, oh my gosh, did you see that? And I'm like, yeah, he does something that other quarterbacks do all the time. I don't understand why we're talking about it. I think that DeMarco Murray honestly deserves a big look for MVP. I don't know why he's not being talked about, but the season DeMarco Murray had this year for the Cowboys was phenomenal. I mean, as a running back, that guy he had a breakout year. And I was impressed with him this year. And he's not being looked at for it, and I think he should. But, those are my, I think J.J. Watt or DeMarco Murray. Those are my two that I think should be in consideration for NFL MVP.
And and I don't dispute at all the fact that DeMarco Murray had a fantastic season, but I think that I'm really hard pressed. I'm really hard pressed to think of God help me. I mean, I would say that I just can't think of, okay, listen, I can't think of anybody else. It has to be J.J. Watt, because I can't think of anybody else that did anything so flippin' phenomenal that it would make them MVP. And for the record, I just need to get this out, because if I don't say it, my head is going to explode. Attention, NFL fans, especially you in the New York, New Jersey area. Gronk has caught a ball one-handed, falling backwards into the end zone or out of bounds several times. I have watched many other people do it. One-handed, hello, Megatron, falling backwards into the end zone. Odell Beckham is not a big deal, okay? He is not, I repeat, not a big deal. There, I said it. I got it out of my system. and now we can all return to our happy lives.
Oh, you know what? I have to get out of my system. Okay. I want to know what spray paint the Buffalo Bills front office was huffing, and they decided to hire Rex Ryan as their new head coach. Really? Playing him twice a year and watching his smug face wasn't enough for you? You thought, man, you see this guy? He's a dynasty maker. He is the quarterback freaking whisperer. This guy knows how to build a team, and he knows how to sustain a team. So hire him. Woohoo! Really? What were you huffing? Smoking? Shooting up? What was it? I want to know. Because that had to have been the dumbest decision by far that I have seen ever. I mean, this is worse than I can. This is like worse than I can't even come up with it. Yeah.
No, seriously, Rex. Can I just tell you that I almost disowned my child because he said Rex Ryan coming to be on our coaching staff would not be a... Excuse me, what? But you know, I think he might have, I don't know, I think maybe he was still sleeping. Maybe he was having a dream about an alternate NFL universe where Rex Ryan may actually be a good coach. You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Bills, but I know, I kind of went, oh, well, alrighty then. Congrats, Bills.
I'm just really mad that he's staying in the division. I gotta still see his fat face twice a year. I was like, yes, I won't have to see him twice a year. Oh, this is gonna be great. And what do? I mean, I just, oh my gosh, I'm in awe. And Kyle Orton left. They've got EJ Emanuel, woohoo. But I don't know. I just can't even imagine why they did it. Why?
But what was it? Okay, and pardon me here, but you know the other boneheaded move I think was really in Denver. Is that? I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I don't see the wisdom of it, but perhaps I am not looking at it in the same way. No, for sure, I am not looking at it in the same way that the Dolphins are. Ooh, damn. The Dolphins, the Denver Broncos were looking at it. I don't know. Wow, I wonder if the Dolphins were ever in contention for QBS. But anyway, so, okay. We've talked about a whole lot, and so before we wrap up, I gotta get your predictions. So tell me what the final score is gonna be, girly.
Oh, I'm horrible at the score predictions, but let's go with. I'm trying to do my math. I'm really bad at math. Like by sevens or so. Let's go with 27, 27-21 Patriots.
Okay.
That's
interesting. And I'm going to go 28-27.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I think the Seahawks are going to pull it out. But no, not cheering against. You know, I got you and I got my girl Jennifer, and I'm not cheering against those interests. But I'm thinking maybe if I cheer for Seattle, the bad luck of my team will rub off on them.
Maybe. That would be optimal.
See? So I'm trying to help. So
I will be wearing the same outfit I wore for divisional round and conference round. I wore the same outfit both rounds. It's
Make sure
happening.
you do everything. You got to eat the same foods. You got to wear the same clothes. You
Yep.
got to do the same thing. You can't mess up the juju. You got to keep the good juju flowing.
That's
So
right.
make sure you do.
Yep.
So, all right. So we are going to be back next Tuesday after the Super Bowl, and we are going to talk about the Super Bowl, and we're going to wrap up the season. But in the meantime, tell us about where. Now, I know that you do a radio show on Sundays. So now, are you going to still be doing the radio show on Sunday, or are you guys postponing it?
Yeah, we're canceling on Sunday because the game's on 4:30 my time, and it starts, and our show starts at 5:30 my time. And I
Right.
was like, I'm not going to be there, so you can have the show, but I won't be there. So we decided to cancel it. I think everybody wants to watch the Super Bowl. So, yeah, Sundays at 5:30 my Mountain Time, so 7:30 Eastern is when the show is typically on every Sunday night. So.
Okay. Well, I will be parked in front of my television with my beverages and my snacks, and I will be watching intently. And I am sure that there will be a text or two that will be coming your way.
Yeah.
I will be keeping my fingers crossed for you, girl, because I think I would love to see Richard Sherman go, and it be because he lost and not because he hurt his elbow.
Yeah.
But as just as a final message, I want to send a little shout out to Shelly, a football buddy from Atlanta, whose dad is in the hospital right now. Shelly, I'm thinking about you. I'm hoping for the best for you guys, and I'm sure everybody out there in Cover 3 land will join me in sending you lots of positivity and good juju, and hope all goes well. So, folks, this was so nice after missing it since November. Since November was the last time that we got together to talk to you. It was really good to have you on, and I want to say thank you to everybody who shouts out the show, who shouts me out on Follow Friday on social media, everybody who sends me tweets and messages of encouragement to keep the show going. I really appreciate you. We are going to come back next Tuesday night for the NFL season wrap up, so join us then. Y'all, in the meantime, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and we will see you next week. Y'all take care.